Time flies when you're having fun, 54 years. Just listening to that number, But I want to greet everybody and comment on yesterday's plenaries and discussions. Can I be heard? It's important to me, having been here 54 years, to say this. We've just been through 30 years of political reaction, beginning with the Reagan period, but then came Gorbachev, and from there it's gone down, and the party has suffered great losses, as the whole movement has. This conference, to me, because of the confidence and the political ability and the boldness of the young people who have come forward at this conference, shows that we are now in the stage of rebuilding the party after this 30 years, and we're going to make it. I want to say that the fact that we decided to take on an election campaign in this monster is a sign of the growth and the development of the party and the strength of it, because it's a tremendous challenge. It's a big uphill struggle. And the fact that we've decided to do it after a long period of not doing it is a sign in itself that the party feels ready. I just want to say a couple of words of general about elections. Elections in the bourgeois countries have been around since capitalism became a developed political and economic system, and since the working class has become a class that is cohesive. And they've always been subject to debate within the communist movement, especially among revolutionaries and especially in revolutionary times. And I want to just say that Lenin, in his book Left-Wing Communism and Infantile Disorder, which should be read much more than it is, said probably the most important words on the question for us in the future. And that is to say, the elections make a difference. They make a difference, and they have to be paid attention to by the communist movement until the workers come to the stage where they disperse the bourgeois parliament and set up their own regime. As long as those workers are still following the parties of the bourgeoisie or have their own parties that participate in a bourgeois constructed parliamentary process, that the Communist Party has to pay the most close attention to it and utilize it in the best way it can. Now, that does not apply to us at this particular juncture, but it's something to bear in mind for the future. On that scale, as far as running for office, it per se, it's not what we're concerned with. Historically, running in bourgeois elections by communists is a way of measuring the influence of the party among the masses and a way of measuring the political consciousness of the vanguard of the masses. But we're not anywhere near that, and that's not what we have to be concerned with. What do we need to be concerned with is, I think, what Peter talked about, is recruitment. Now, this is a new form of struggle for many of the comrades in the room, the new people especially. And there are many, many forms of struggle which the party will have to master, all the way from peaceful demonstrations to occupations, to seizures, to picket lines and strikes, general strikes, legal struggle, and not legal struggle, underground struggle. All of these struggles have to be mastered by any party who hopes to lead this multinational, multi-million-fold working class to power. But we're now embarking on an electoral campaign. And what is it about it that makes it so opportune for us? We need to develop our skills as Marxist propagandists. We all cheered for socialism yesterday, and that's great, and we should. But that's inside the hall. Walk outside onto St. Nicholas Avenue or Broadway, it's another matter. The challenge of finding those elements among the masses in all sectors of our class who can be pulled towards Marxism and communism and socialist revolution, that is an art that we have to master. As Peter pointed out, what we've done all these years, we have become masters at agitation, activist agitation, even mixed in with Marxism. But agitation is not enough to win somebody over to a worldview. That takes propaganda, elaboration of what socialism is, of what capitalism is, and of why we have to get rid of capitalism. That's a task for our propagandists. And I think it's fair to say that a revolutionary Marxist party is a party of fighting propagandists. When the Vietnamese started their struggle against the French, and they sent out armed brigades, they called them armed propaganda brigades. And they brought leaflets to the villages in order to explain imperialism and capitalism and landlordism to the peasants. And that's how they built the Vietnamese Communist Party. And that was in a rural country. So the role of propaganda has been recognized by communists all over the world since Marx began the whole thing. So we have a chance to go face to face now with our class. And why is this such an opportunity for us? Because the bourgeoisie has opened a window by their election campaign. They open a window, they put on debates, they put on discussions, they put on out literature on candidates and so on. And what does it do? It makes the workers perk up. Oh, let me listen to this. They may not be all enthusiastic about Hillary Clinton or Jeb Bush or whoever, but those who are thinking about things want to see if there's anything within this process that's going to help them to improve their condition or to prevent attacks upon them. And that's why they listen now. And we need to take advantage of that window of opportunity to hone our skills as Marxist propagandists and speak to the receptive workers and students and people in the community who are willing to listen, to find the 1 in 100, the 1 in 500, the 1 in 1,000. If we can get them to stop on the street or to come over and look, ask for the paper, or to read a leaflet, and we can pull them towards us, we'll get them on an ideological basis. And that's going to be the final strength of our party. Struggle and ideological homogeneity around the question of Marxism and socialist revolution. That's the glue that's going to hold this party together through thick and thin, through reaction and upsurge. That's it. And that's what this election campaign offers us. The opportunity to speak to all sectors on Marxism and socialism, and the opportunity to operate as a national unit, which is when we're the strongest, That's a great opportunity for the party right now, and we must seize upon it and not get diverted from it. It doesn't mean giving up any struggle. It means bringing the campaign into the struggle. That's what it means. We don't give up on any struggle. And before I give a few examples, I want to say this. This campaign cannot be carried politically by our two candidates, as wonderful as they are. It can be only carried by the party as a whole, politically. I'm not talking about organizationally and getting the table up and getting the speaker fixed. I'm talking about talking to the masses of people. And everybody and anybody in the party, new or old, can participate politically. From a sound truck, from a ladder, from a rally, from a street meeting, from going to crash a debate, doing whatever they can do to bring the message of socialism and revolution to every place we can get to. And especially bringing Workers' World newspaper, which should become an instrument of the campaign and have regular articles on the campaign, and that they can bring it to the plant gates, to the hospital, to the big box store, to the McDonald's, or wherever it is. Everybody can and must participate, and not to be afraid to make a mistake, or you got to get your feet wet to get somebody off the street to listen to you and come towards the party. We have many areas that we can go to. Take the Black Lives Matter movement. We can bring Marxism to them. We can discuss the capitalist state. We can discuss how the police began as slave patrols, to patrol and capture slaves and to monitor the native peoples, and that they evolved as capitalism developed into the cops on the street corners and in Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and everywhere. We could explain that the police are rooted in the capitalist society and that it's the capitalist state that's behind it. They went from slave patrols to becoming strikebreakers and spies. And without uniforms, they were called Pinkertons. And if you just remember back to the 80s and the 90s, the cops, what were they doing in addition to oppressing? I need a little more time than that. In addition to oppressing the workers, the oppressed people in the community, they were scab herding. They were busting the strikes in the mines in Arizona, in the meatpacking plants in Minnesota, in the Caterpillar plant in Illinois, in the newspaper strike in Detroit, and on and on. That's when you saw the cops in the other role that they have, aside from national oppression: strike breaking, scab herding, beating down the unions. It's all coming from the same class that's profiting. Or take, for example, the low-wage workers. Now, there are hundreds of activists and thousands of people around the country that agree with us and to tell them that they're being exploited and oppressed and that they have not enough wages and that the bosses are getting rich off of you and so on. What do we bring to that argument? They should own McDonald's. That's what we bring to the argument. Yes, we want $15 an hour. Yes, we want a union. But McDonald's should belong to us like Burger King and Walmart and all the rest of it. Because that's a place of exploitation. They're taking our labor. We need a new system. We know the problem, which is capitalism, and we know the solution, which is socialism. We can bring that to them. Nobody else is going to bring it. But we have credibility because we're in the struggle. And we got a chance to meet unionists. We got a chance to find the trade union activists who will be amenable to Marxism. One of the high points, in my view, of this conference is the Vermont UE people who came here to tell us about the defense guard against racism. That's new. This is what the union movement needs. They need, and who did that? Some run-of-the-mill trade unionist who's just looking for a raise? No, it's a class-conscious revolutionary trade unionists who did it without being asked. It's no accident that the UE was the one that did the occupation, the seizure of the doors and windows in Chicago. I could go a long way into their background in the struggle against racism, but I won't. But Tommy yesterday said that this unions will never become class conscious unless, as Lenin said, revolutionaries get in there. Revolutionaries have to get in the unions. That's the only class organization that exists in capitalist society for the workers. And it's been that way since capitalism became a real social system. Sam Marcy, the founder of this party, who was a trade unionist in his early days, used to tell us, if they try to keep you out of the window, if they push you out the door in the union, you come in the window. If they throw you out the window, you come down the chimney. But you get in there, because that's where our class has its power over the bosses. And any worker who works at will and has to do what they're told will understand this in a heartbeat. I'm going to finish up. I know I'm over my time. Oh, hey.
No, that's being generous.
I go for that. Okay. But look at our union, the 8751. Look at ILWU Local 10. And look at the UE. And look, they're the only ones in the country that fights racism, that fights for immigrants, that fights for Mamiya. We have to multiply and spread that. And we can bring this to the immigration struggle. These detention centers for immigrants, they're profit centers too. They're all run by private corporations, the Correctional Corporation of America, and there are others. And you know what? They're guaranteed that they have, before they sign a contract, that they have 100 beds or 200 beds or 300 beds guaranteed to them, because that's how they make their money. So what is ICE? What is it? They're herders of immigrants into the detention centers. They herd them in, and the capitalists get the profits. It's part of the capitalist system, just like the way they exploit the immigrants and super exploit them by keeping them in fear. So we have a lot to say from the point of view of Marxism to the immigrants, and also to the women's struggle about the patriarchal capitalism and property and all sorts of inheritance, which is the beginning of the destruction of women's of women. And also, of course, the LGBTQ movement, and above all to the anti-war movement, we have to bring the word that this is an imperialist system, that this is not just another war here or another war there, that the imperialists have been trying since the collapse of the Soviet Union to get back all the territory that they lost in the 20th century. That's what all this is about. They want to get back Russia, they want to get back Iraq, they want to get back Libya, Syria, everything that they lost in Africa too, and in Latin America. And that this is endemic to monopoly capitalism. And we have to fight not just war, but the system of monopoly capitalism and destroy it in order to get peace on earth. I gotta stop. Okay. Finally, a word or two about Sanders and socialism. Larry said yesterday that Sanders, as bad as he is, also offers an opportunity. And Sanders has made not socialism so much, but the word socialism discussable. It's now a legitimate word, legitimatized in the bourgeois election campaign. Now, guess who is the last one on earth who wants to discuss socialism? He mumbles about Denmark and Finland when they ask him something in Scandinavia and next. He doesn't want to talk about it. But we do. But we do. And we can talk about it till the cows come home. Every place and everywhere. And we could explain to the masses of people that socialism is not about just erasing inequality. Inequality is built into class inequality and national inequality under capitalism and sexual inequality. We want to turn it upside down. We want the bosses to be on the bottom and the workers and the oppressed to be on the top. That's socialism. Now, we don't need any hemming and hawing about it. And it can be understood by class-conscious workers everywhere. Easy. So that's my message for today. Build a workers' world, build the election campaign, down with capitalism and imperialism and racism.